Welcome everyone to Kowalski Analysis. This is episode 78, and this is a podcast designed to help you navigate the weight and become the best version of you. I'm your host, Rob Kowalski, and I'm really excited about the guest that we have today. But before I tell you about her, do me a favor, drop me a comment. Let me know that you can see and hear me okay. If it is your first time tuning in, do me a favor and leave your location in the comments. Leave what city that you live in the comments, because we have people all over the country, all over the world actually, that have reached out to us, and we have started connecting them with others in their area to do life with. And we have groups that have formed in about 15 other cities right now that are actually doing events, doing social and service events at the moment. So it's very exciting. And we have actually over 68 cities where we've identified at least 3 people. And just quickly to tell you where those cities are, and you're just gonna have to bear with me because it is 68 cities, but if you're in one of these cities, definitely want to hear from you. So here's where we're at right now. Here's where we have a cluster of members: Albuquerque, Anchorage, Asheville, Atlanta, Aurora, Austin, Baltimore, Birmingham, Brisbane, Australia, Southern California, Northern California, Charlotte, Chicago, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Colorado, Columbus, Dallas, Delaware, Des Moines, Detroit, Washington, D.C., Frederick, Grand Rapids, Greenville, Houston, Huntsville, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Kansas City, Knoxville, Lakeland, Las Vegas, Lexington, Los Angeles, Lynchburg, Memphis, Milwaukee, Nashville, New York City, Oklahoma City, Orlando, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Pittsburgh, Port St. Lucie, Raleigh, Richmond, Roanoke, Rochester, Sacramento, San Antonio, San Diego, Seattle, South Florida, Southern Pennsylvania, Southern Utah, St. George, shout out to them, St. Louis, Sydney, Australia, Tacoma, Tampa, Tucson, Tulsa, Tyler, Texas, new one, Virginia Beach, Wichita, and Yukon. Okay. And the list grows every day. It's really exciting what's happening right now. This was always the dream, and it is happening. So if you live in one of those places, and even if you don't, reach out, because there's a good chance we have 1 or 2 other members in that area, and they just haven't made the list, because we like there to be at least 3 before we combine them together. So back to the episode. Let me tell you about the guest that we had today. Her name is Megan Wex, and she's a certified dating and relationship coach. She's also an author and a speaker, and she helps successful, high-achieving women find lasting love. She's coached hundreds of women in dating and relationships, and in the last 2 years alone, she's helped 20 women find and marry the man of their dreams. Through her YouTube channel, Attract Him TV, and her Facebook group, she reaches more than 100,000 people and has been featured in numerous media outlets, including Psychology Today, Redbook, Bustle, and more. Using her signature, check this out, Manfunnel technique, Megan found and married her husband within a year of meeting him. So I saw one of her features today in Forbes Women. I was reading this little write-up that she did about her, and it was pretty incredible. So that's Megan Wex, and I'm really excited to talk to her, because I think, the people that she helps, that really fits our demographic. We have a lot of successful, high achieving women that are looking for lasting love. So this is going to be a great conversation. So let's go ahead and bring Megan in. Hey, Megan.
Hey, Rob.
How are you?
Very well. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Very excited for the conversation. So you're in New York City?
I'm just outside of New York City, but I dated in Manhattan for over a decade. And I pounded those pavements looking for love. So I'm quite acquainted with dating in the big city.
The mean streets of New York. Yeah, I bet it's tough out there. Well, so how long have you been married?
Just over 8 years now. We celebrated our 8th wedding anniversary this past June.
So you were dating during the whole Sex and the City craze, and that was you.
I would say so. There's definitely some similarities there.
That's funny. That's awesome. Have you had kids with your husband yet?
Actually, my husband's a widower, and when I came along, the kids were just turning 10. Mm-hmm. And I ended up, we were planning on having additional kids, but my hands were so full with these, and they just turned 18, and now they're off to college. And so I'm basically a very young empty nester right now, which is very exciting.
That's cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Good to be selfish. I've often thought, if I do get married, I want to I want to have a little bit of time with my wife where we're able to just, be selfish, travel, and have sex in the kitchen, and just all the
I
stuff.
didn't get that. I was thrown into, I call it insta-momming. So I was thrown into all of that. And I'm really looking forward to now having that time where we can really, see where the wind blows us. So that's what my year is looking like. It's very uncertain in the best way possible.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on. Something I like to do before we get started on the interview is we do this little thing called this or that. It's where I ask you 5 this or that questions just to give our listeners a chance to get to know you a little better. You ready?
Sounds good, Rob. Let's do it.
Okay. Bad haircut or bad dye job?
Bad dye job.
Okay. Winning the lottery or finding your soulmate?
Oh gosh, that's a really tough one. Depends on how big the lotto is.
Okay, I'll take it. Misquoted movies or mistaken lyrics?
Mistaken lyrics.
Okay. Test the waters or dive in the deep end?
Oh my word. Test the waters.
Okay. Ketchup or ranch?
Ketchup for sure.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for playing along. So I think the obvious question people want to know is, how does one become a dating and relationship coach? How did you get here?
That's a great question. So I remember one of my girlfriends came over to my apartment one day and I was helping her get dressed, and I guess she was going through a breakup, and I was thinking like, I know I was consulting on Wall Street at the time. So my background is in recruitment, and I was in like tech and different, in healthcare, different areas, and doing that role. And in any case, my friend was over, and I had this real strong urge that I felt in that moment, which was like, I know I want to help women, and I know I want to help them like be reborn or rebirth, maybe after divorce or something along those lines. But I just had no idea how to put this together. So fast forward, I had already found like some of my mentors that really helped me when I was struggling with finding that partner, right? I knew I was the full package woman, but for some reason that strong or like long-term relationship just was still elusive for me, Rob. And so I just really, when I had figured it all out and I'd found my mentors and I was, getting engaged and I found my person, I really knew I wanted to help other women, but I didn't really know how I would do so. And then one day I was sort of researching where one of my mentors had gone to school. I wanted to see what her coaching school was, or where I should get my master's in counseling and all of this, so I could ultimately help women. And it turned out one of my mentors had started a coaching school back in 2015 for dating and relationships. And I was like, okay, there's no way I'm not taking this course, and then I'll figure it all out later. But she actually had us build our website, and then she started sending clients to us, Rob. And I was like, just to practice on. So this is the cool part of the story. I was just practicing on these women for free and helping them out. And then they were like, okay, so how do I buy a package? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, I didn't even know how to charge at that point. I hadn't thought that far. But the first 3 women I started working with and practicing on, who hadn't had a relationship, one in 10 years and the other in about 7 years. Like, one could never get past the 3rd date. One just like hadn't had a boyfriend in a decade. So I practiced on these women. I just like asked them, hey, can I practice my new tools, my new coaching on you?
Was it called a Manfunnel back then?
It was not.
Okay.
And 3 out of 3 within 3 months, they were in serious relationships,
Wow.
Rob. So I was like, okay, this didn't just work for me, but it's like clearly works. And then that's like when I really gave myself permission to turn this thing that was fun and curiosity, interesting, this urge, into like an actual career.
Awesome. So have you ever coached any celebrities? Now I know you probably can't tell me their names, but
I have. I would say more on like the minor celebrity and influencers. I have people who come into my ecosystem, and I have this women's network or club, so to speak, membership community, and people are allowed to use an alias in there if they want to protect their identity.
Right. Well, it's refreshing to hear that it's not only us normal people that have problems finding their person. It's everybody, right?
It becomes a little more challenging. And of course, you don't want to be, people put certain people on a pedestal. So I do have some clients date with a nickname or even alias when they're out there, because you really don't need to share. Like, one thing that comes up a lot is that understanding of like, what do I share and when with a new person online? And my paradigm really is, until you trust someone, you don't need to give people sensitive information or your secrets necessarily. And so you can sort of build trust in other ways before disclosing things like, that you're a celebrity.
Right. Well, yeah. So if you could just sum it up, what do you do for clients?
I help high achieving women meet their soulmate quickly. So they meet, attract, and marry their soulmate quickly. So why I say attract is because there's a lot of different things like in between the meeting and the attraction, and then actually knowing how to qualify a person and moving things along in a way that serves you on your timeline.
Right. So I'm curious to hear, how do you qualify somebody? Are you asking specific questions? Or are you having your clients ask specific questions?
One of the biggest ways that we qualify, and what's really different between the Manfunnel method and what I call linear dating, which is how everybody's doing it today, where they're just jumping in, they're getting excited about someone and diving right on in. The biggest difference that where we use to qualify people is what I call an exploratory phase. And that's like a few months where you're just getting to know that person without necessarily being physically intimate. You're asking them questions, not like, oh, do you see yourself being married necessarily? You don't have to drop the M word right away, but you can say like an open-ended question like, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I think that's a really good question that you all can use just to gently qualify people and see where their head is at.
Love it. That's good. Yeah. I know you had mentioned, that you were a proponent of waiting before, and I was curious to dive into that a little bit. So do you tell your clients a certain period of time, wait till marriage? What do you believe?
So just overall, I think that I want you to know that I don't really set hard and fast rules, Rob, and everybody listening, but I do provide these certain guidelines, because if you're not having great luck out there, I want you to get quick wins. Okay. So in order to get quick wins, I do ask that you follow certain guidelines. One of those guidelines is to slow down that physical intimacy for many reasons. One being that once that oxytocin is flowing in your system, it just affects your frontal lobe. You have decreased reasoning, logistical skills. And so when you can just qualify that person from afar and just get to know them without that cloud of the spark and that sexuality driving you toward that person, because that makes you kind of overlook real glaring issues and red flags that could be there. Okay,
John
so
Masler said your amygdala like shuts down or something for women when this happens, and that's why.
Yes, our friend Dawn, her work really aligns with the Manfunnel method, and so we do some presentations together and such. And she's the one who told me that you lose 80% of your functionality of your frontal lobe.
Wow.
When you start to fall in those initial stages. And so to gain that clarity, having an exploration phase helps you really view things from that bird's eye view instead of being in it where you're losing yourself. So that's like one of the main reasons. So a metaphor that I think is helpful to understand is that if you were a race car driver and you were a professional driver, you could go hit that course and go above 100 or 150 miles an hour and you'd be fine. Okay. But if you're a fledgling driver and you get on that course, you're not going to want to go 150, 200 miles an hour. You're much more likely to crash and burn. Right. And so the same thing goes with dating. If you're having trouble out there, my ask is that you consider just taking things a little more slowly in the beginning. That's all. So that's really all I'm asking you to do, so you can have more clarity and observe.
Gotcha. So tell me about the Manfunnel, because when I think about, and I don't know what it is, honestly, but when I think about a Manfunnel, I'm like, so I'm guessing that the basic premise of it is because a funnel is wider at the top, right? And then
yes.
So I'm like, there's a lot of men or a lot of dates, going a lot of dates initially, spreadsheet, I don't know what you have, but then it's, people that are eventually they're coming down and then there's one. So is that, I mean, but I don't, obviously there's a technique to it. So, and I don't want you to give away your secrets, but can you give us an idea of what the basic?
I'm happy to share. There are so many tools. There's so much within this body of work when you get deeper that, I could share with you all day and there would still be tons more secrets and tools, secret sauces to learn. That's one of the things that really surprised me when I embarked on my personal development journey. And quite frankly, I mean, I had done business training and such, or I had, studied tennis or field hockey or whatnot, or skiing strategies. But like, I never thought like, ooh, I really need to sharpen my pencil in this relationship thing. That took me a while to like come to realize that I was that common denominator in all my failed relationships, Rob. So when I did start learning that there were things I could do to become a better dater or to become better at relationships, I was like blown away by the body of work. Like there is so much that you can do. And so many people kind of like, it's becoming more accepted to work with a coach and do self-help and everything, personal development, which is wonderful. I'm so happy about that. But in any case, there's just so much to learn is what I wanted you to know. So what a man funnel is it's simply like, it's really a few things. It's a noun. Okay. So it's like a group of people who you're considering for a relationship, but it's also like a way of life, something you do, right? Like a verb, like man funneling is like, I'm exploring options of people who I'm considering for a relationship. So it's like an act of doing things. And then there's like the diagram, like you said, there's a funnel. And yes, there's people that you could consider prospects in the top, but the ultimate goal of the man funnel would be to find that special someone at the bottom of your funnel, the winner of the man funnel. Why? What does this do? Okay. It brings a bit of lightness, almost like we're not playing games, but there's a bit of gamification in the process. Like one of the things that holds us back so much is that we take everything so seriously, just in life in general. And dating can be crippling if we're editorializing every bit and piece of feedback that we get out there, right? Rob, what do you think about that? Do you see that in your friends or yourself, just like getting that external feedback? And
yeah, for sure.
Like
I mean, I think, yeah, I love the idea of having options, because, from anybody's standpoint, really, if all your attention is focused on one person and you're like, this is the one, then you're going to be way too serious and you're going to put too much pressure on that other person and yourself, versus just like, hey, I'm out here, I know for me, it's terrible, but when I had the most women that were interested, it was when I was completely aloof. I didn't really care one way or the other who, and it kind of drives people a little bit nutty, because they're like, they want your attention when you're like that. And I'm not saying that that's right. It's just where I was at the time. So I think there's value in it. But they, and this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you, was like, because there's, people are like, where's the whole, people say, well, I don't want to play games, because I'll tell them like, look, don't call back right away. I've been giving people advice on things. Right. And they're like, well, I don't want to play games. And I'm like, I understand that, but you have to get in the game. Sometimes if you don't present yourself right in the beginning, you won't even get in the game. It's like, you don't run up on a squirrel. A squirrel's going to run away if you run up on it. Like, you got to take your time in the beginning and like, like whatever. But, and I'm not saying women are squirrels, but you get the point. Like, so I'm just curious to dive into that, because it's like, you're not teaching people tricks or whatever, because Matthew Hussey and all these people out there, how to get a man hooked on you, like five texts that will get him hooked. And I'm like, I kind of feel what people are saying, but there is just certain good human behavior principles to follow, I guess.
1,000%. If you look at like the animal kingdom as a whole, like everybody has their mating rituals, and so do we. So when you say you get in the game, it's like, you can discard all of this because your human brain is so complex and it wants to be like, I'm beyond this and I just want to be myself, right? Like, I want you to be yourself, but I also want you to realize that there are things within are mating that can help you come off as more attractive. So it's not like ignoring that text and waiting intentionally is truly what I want you to do. What I want you to do, Rob, is become authentically hard to get. Okay. So what does that look like? Just like maybe you're taking that healthy approach of giving your brain a break from the all day tech. Okay. It's not really good for anyone. You check your dating app, maybe, 30 minutes in the evening and like maybe 10 minutes and a mid-morning break or something like, otherwise it's like gets you frazzled and you're so wrapped up in it. Okay. Like I want you to be putting your attention elsewhere on yourself and things that matter, your friends or your family, your work. Okay. And not to be obsessively working on things or waiting for that text. So that's like a little snippet of how I want you to be authentically hard to get by not becoming just naturally fully available all the time because you're staring at your phone, for example. What do you think, Rob?
Hey, Rob Kowalski here. When I first got serious about living intentionally and becoming a better version of myself, I found a major shortage of things to do and people to do them with. And it was the loneliness and boredom that led me to starting CityFam. So I just want to take a moment right now and encourage you to go over and join the CityFam Facebook community. It's a free Facebook group, and in it you'll find purpose-driven people from all over the world that want to enjoy life to the fullest. You can search it on Facebook, or you can go to www.friendswithbetterbenefits.com and it'll take you right there. While I'm mentioning it, if you're single, searching for real love before sex, as I like to say, I want to encourage you to join the Waiting Works community. That's another free Facebook group I put together designed to help people wait well, date well, and ultimately hit the mark in life and love. And you can go to www.reallovewaits.com and I'll see you over there. Now back to the episode. 100%. Yeah. I tell people, like, especially women, don't give him wife privileges when you're his girlfriend. I had girls that would come over and have sex with me, clean my house, make me dinner, and I'm not even their boyfriend. And I'm like, and it just makes, I didn't want to walk on them, but we're humans, and if you teach people how to treat you. And if you don't teach them to respect you, a lot of times they won't, even if they don't mean to. Like, yeah, you got to like give what you get, is my opinion. If he's giving you this much, and you can give that much back, but if he's not giving it, a lot of times I think women are caregivers, and you're like, I want to show them that I'd be a good wife.
Exactly. And
then they want to come over and clean your house and do your laundry, but he hasn't given you anything to deserve that. And they don't realize men don't think like that. Men are,
they don't realize that, like, to piggyback on what you're saying, that's exactly what we naturally try to do. What I used to try to do is demonstrate my value, demonstrate what a good, partner I would be. But then you're destroying one very important ingredient in the secret sauce, which is tension. Okay. If you're stealing his work, that work that he has to prove that he's the one who wants to kind of prove that he's going to be that great man for you. And if you're so busy proving to him what a great woman you're going to be, it really gets into this butting of heads, and there's zero tension there for him to work for it. And he needs that tension and that element of working in order to really fall for you.
That's good. Yeah. Men fought wars for women, and we'll swim the ocean for a woman.
Exactly.
You got to make them do it.
Exactly. And these are just some of the energetic dynamics that I love to talk about so much. Why am I so passionate about it? Because I had it all wrong, and it's so easy to get it all wrong. And guess what? When you really learn how, it's so easy to get it all right. And that's what I want for all of you.
Yeah. Love it. So what's the number one thing you would tell someone to improve their chances of finding someone? Is there like one big common thing? Is that the common thing that we just discussed, or is there something?
It goes along with the big common thing. So what I would want you to know is basically what Rob said. He said it in a nutshell. Don't provide these these wife privileges when you're maybe not even a girlfriend yet. Okay. I don't even want you to become a girlfriend at all. Okay. We can get into that a bit after I answer your question, but overcommitment is one of the biggest issues I see, not only in the preliminary dating stages. So on those apps where we're sort of like we find this one person interesting and we get into this whole 3-week miniature situationship relationship before even meeting the person oftentimes. Okay. How many of you are guilty of that? Okay. And then when you do have that fish on the line, you're giving like this full on commitment so fast and not observing that person, qualifying them over time, over that, what I call that exploratory phase. If you shift these two things, cast that wider net where you're just exploring. I'm not saying you need to date a whole host of people. That's actually not what the Manfunnel is about. It's about not having that laser focus and continuing to allow interesting people in the top of the funnel. Okay. Instead of jumping into commitment so quickly.
Yeah. I heard you say something in an interview that I was listening to when I was kind of getting ready for this. And you talked about how certain tactics to take to get him to claim you. And I was like, that's good, because that's really what it is. Because then if he's feeling threatened, or if you want to call it that, by other men, like, hold on, somebody else is going to get this one. Then he makes him step up.
Yeah.
So, really
but this is the problem with this, Rob, is women who aren't yet in their abundance mindset, and they feel like once this man disappears, like he's my only chance. So many women just still have that in their bones, that feeling. So I kind of have to slowly inch them toward where they can do the behaviors that make him want to claim, because it's like with anything, there's no risk, no reward. So if he doesn't see that you're willing to risk losing him, you'll never get to that place where he's begging for commitment.
That's so good. All right. So let's, I guess you do recommend, obviously. Well, let's go back to what you said before I asked this question. You had mentioned not being his girlfriend. Now, I mean, it makes me think about courting, or like you're basically dating with the intention to marry. Is that what you're telling your clients, or what do you mean by that? So don't get into something like these long drawn out.
If you want to be married, okay, it depends what your goal is. Like if you have a different goal, then we can adjust, our process. But if you're a person who wants to be married and wants to be married soon, I don't suggest being a girlfriend and getting stuck in any long-term girlfriend situation. And this is what I clearly had said to Josh when he was asking for my exclusivity. I said, well, Josh, I'm so enjoying getting to know you, and you're really special to me. I can see that you're an incredible man, and I really want to continue getting to know you. The thing is that I'm just, I'm not really looking to be a girlfriend. I'm looking to be a wife. And so I'd like to get to know you better and see if we're really on that same page. Okay. With having similar intentions.
Love it.
And
takes a lot of balls to say that.
Yes.
I mean, you got to have a backbone to have that conversation. It's great.
You have to have an abundance mindset. That mindset is, if he's not going to consider courting me strongly for the intention of what I want, then it's not worthwhile to me. Okay.
You're willing to go all in and lose it.
That's what the energy, comes across. And then, a couple weeks later, I was like, I see this is moving in a great direction. I'm just so enjoying this. And I will be your girlfriend. It's just, I'm not looking to be a long-term girlfriend, and I won't be, and I'm not going to be a long-term girlfriend, basically. And he proposed in under 6 months, and that was over 8 years ago.
It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think it goes back to where you have to have the courage to lose it. You have to push all your chips in and be like, look, this is what I want. If you don't want it, okay. But I think people get so scared to lose it that they don't go all in. I've seen guys do this too, where they'll just tolerate some bad behavior. And I'm like, you need to tell her to lose your effing number or whatever, and because she's going to continue if you don't. But they're so scared that if they did that she would not call again. When it's actually the thing that would make her, treat him the way that he wants to be. But people get so scared of doing the thing that they'll lose the person, that they end up losing them anyway. They just drift away slowly.
So 1,000%. That's why it's so critical to get solid with yourself if you want to create that really long lasting, solid relationship. If you're still in that position, and I know there's many of you who are relating to exactly what Rob just said, there's some self-loving there in order.
You help people with that, your clients?
Our work is, we do that practical work where I show you how to behave out there in the world. That's what I call the outer work. And then we do so much of that inner work and that confidence, that self-love, that self-nurturing, self-care, limiting beliefs, shadow work. It's like a whole holistic approach. So it's an inner approach and an outer approach that we take.
It's good stuff. So should women ever pursue?
There's times when women should pursue 1,000%. And if you don't, you're going to be like left in the dust these days. Okay. Because we've got a lot of women in pursuit online. Okay. So here's some times when it's important to pursue. One, when you're not going to have another chance. So let's say you're at a festival and you see a hottie and the odds of you seeing him again are very low. So you could just say, hey, wow, I think you're really attractive. Feel free to call me. Here's my number, and like give it to him. Like you have nothing to lose.
That's good.
Okay.
That works for guys too, right?
Oh, for sure. And one of my things is when I have timid people who are dating and they're just so afraid of getting that external feedback of rejection, it holds you back so much. One of your homework then becomes, you need to go out and this week, I want you to get rejected 10 times.
Oh my gosh. I'm nervous thinking about it. Hey, Rob here, back with one more thing. When I first started down this way of life, I was super determined to not have premarital sex, even if it meant being alone and doing life by myself. But my desire for making positive changes quickly led to feelings of loneliness and boredom, to the point where I fell into a deep depression and I wasn't enjoying my life at all. It wasn't until years later when I backslid, hit rock bottom, and then rededicated, at which point I started working with life coaches, that things finally came into focus and I understood how the season of singleness was a blessing and how to use it to my advantage. Over the last 10 years, I formed an amazing process that's not only allowed me, but everyone I've shared it with, to become the absolute best version of themselves. And I want to do that same thing for you. I want to show you how to maximize the season of singleness, to discover a purpose and create a life that you couldn't even have dreamt of if you tried. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, go to my website, robbkowalski.com, click on the courses tab, and you'll see 2 courses there. One called the Proverbs 31 Blueprint for ladies, one called Unleash the Best You for men. Click on the one that's right for you and enter the code podcast to take 50% off for a limited time. Hope to see you on the inside. Now back to the episode. I mean, if I saw a hot girl at the grocery store, to walk up to her and say what you just said would terrify me. And I've had plenty of women, and I'm still scared even thinking about doing it.
Oh, you got to have fun with it. This is the gamification part. Okay. So this is why you can't take yourself so seriously. Like you can't, the more no's that you hear, Rob, the closer you are to a yes.
Right. Yeah. I guess where I stand with it is when I was out, having sex, I would do more of that for sure. Because I was like, I guess now my thought is like, what are the chances that this is God, the person that God put in front of me, and I actually have to go up and take this bold step and introduce myself to her in front of the cantaloupes, I'm like, it's probably just a hot girl. At least that's the thought process that goes through in my head. But then again, I'm going to be 50 later this year and I'm still never been in love. So maybe I need to do some things differently.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think you've got to go up, maybe find a way that feels better to you, where it's not necessarily going off and saying, can I have your number? You could say, hey, are you making anything special tonight? Just see if she's receptive to that softer question. She's, shopping for food. So perhaps she is making something interesting, or.
You know how to tell if a cantaloupe is ripe?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so good.
So I got some questions from listeners. One question that a woman asked is, how can you recognize a wolf in sheep's clothing, and how long does that typically take?
Mm-hmm. Generally, when there's a wolf in sheep's clothing, there are telltale signs right away. Okay. You've got to be so in tune with the feelings in your body. The signals are inside. You're always being signaled by your body, and it's your job to start paying attention to these signals and signs. That's something we really foster here at the Manfunnel, is the mind-body connection. In our lives, we're often so conditioned, even by our parents, okay, teachers, to ignore are signals and signs. For example, crying and your parent saying like, oh, big one that's being talked about online, I see a lot lately, is like, oh, if you keep crying, I'm going to really give you something to cry about, or something along those lines. Just little remarks that parents might make that teach us to ignore some of our own feelings. Okay. And so we need to, as adults, recondition ourselves to start listening to signals, especially when we've had toxic relationships. Another really telltale sign is just that, moving very quickly. When you're being love bombed, that person is going to move things very quickly. And if you pace yourself, slow things down, they just may not stick around for that. So that's like another reason why the exploratory phase is so valuable, because it totally prevents, and the whole Manfunnel method prevents toxic people from being able to break through. Okay. Another thing to look out for is like, this is easy to fall for, because online, if we're susceptible again to like really reading in and editorializing that external feedback, we're so sensitive about what people might say and do online that when they come giving big compliments, we kind of like get weak in the knees, and it just feels so good because it's everything we want to hear. Okay? But oftentimes these toxic people are showing up, especially scammers and narcissists and all of this. They're going to come and give you really high compliments. Like, they're not going to just say you're great. They're going to say you're the greatest, or you're the most beautiful person they've ever seen. So you want to really, those are a few tips off the bat that can help you avoid falling for that wolf in sheep's clothing.
Right. Gotcha. Cool. Another question that a listener asked was, and this is something that I'm really curious about actually, is attachment styles, and how much do they actually play into a relationship?
Well, I know that's very popular to learn about attachment styles. Okay. And whichever attachment style you are, the more work that you kind of do with regard to what we mentioned here, that holistic approach will strengthen and help you get into a more secure attachment. Now, what I don't like about attachment styles, Rob, is that whenever something's not working out within the dating realm, I'm seeing a lot more of like pointing fingers, like, oh, he's anxious attached, or, he's avoidant. Okay. Now, the issue with that is when we're pointing fingers at anyone in the dating process, we are then not being self-aware, because we're deflecting. What I want you to do is look within. Like, if someone's backing away, maybe you had no contribution in that whatsoever, except that that's just not productive. I want you to look at all of your dating experience as a mirror, reflect on what you can take away from that. And so rather than kind of trying to label people because it helps you control your thought process and makes your ego feel better, it's really important to look at that external feedback and think like, how can I improve? How was I showing up? And how can I deepen my relationship with self in order to deepen my relationship with others?
I love it. It takes all the responsibility off of you when you point fingers. I've seen it's, I've been told I'm avoidant, and I probably am, because I've read about it and it seems pretty descriptive of me. And, but the term that floats around a lot right now is narcissist. Every man, like every woman's like, he was a narcissist. I'm like, literally, like every man is a narcissist right now. I'm like, it's so overused. Versus just you saying, looking at yourself and been like, is there some role that, contribution that I played in the way this relationship played out? And what can I do to make sure this doesn't happen again? Versus, like you said, just pointing the finger at the other person and not doing anything to change it, or, change yourself in any way. But I guess my question is like, because my thought is, am I avoidant, or just haven't I found the person that I deeply connect with? Because it could be either or. Because I'm like, this is something that I've seen, and I don't know if I'm going to describe this exactly the way it works in my head, but men will have sex with women that aren't everything that they want. They might not even be close to everything that they want. They'll have sex with them. Now that woman, so like to him, she's maybe a little bit lower, right? Whatever. Now that woman though is everything that some man wants. She's just not everything that man wants, but he'll have sex with her. So he'll, but then the woman is not making out in that exchange, because at that point he's kind of like making a withdrawal from her and from another man's future wife.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I could see how, that person, that woman could be like, well, he was avoidant. Well, maybe he just didn't want to be in a relationship with you. Like, so do you see people's, I guess the question I'm trying to get answered is, do you see people's attachment style, or if someone's avoidant, can they be successful in a committed relationship with the right person? Or does that just change, or is that something that they have to really work on themselves to get that connection?
I think that if this has been a long-term pattern, then there's still more personal work to be done there. There is something I call that rabbit hole of intimacy, and it's a very scary place for all of us. And if we can't drop into it and get through to the other side, that's like often a place where even myself, I remember even with Josh, I started getting into this sabotaging place. And luckily I was talking to my mom about it. And she's like, no, you don't, like, call him back, or like whatever it was. That's why it's so good to have someone to help you with clarity, someone to talk about your dates with, your candidates, qualify what you want. So if you're in that moment of fear, you're not just sabotaging and retreating, you're actually going through this process and realizing, no, I want intimacy, I want love. This is that path to love. This is that candidate that, I clearly chose as someone who I wanted to go down this path with, and I need to continue to stick this out and try and see if I can kind of get to the other side. I think with avoidant attachment, there becomes a moment where there's a blind spot where the person retreats, and then they might then later be like, what did I do? And they might want to go back, get that person back, and then they'll ditch that same person again. I don't know if you have familiarity with that.
Totally. Pull them in, push them out. That's it. I've done, it was when I was out, when I wasn't committed to waiting until marriage, I wasn't aware of any of this, because it was just like, you see a girl you like, you go have sex, and then you're like, just don't want to be in a relationship. But now it's like, I'm really struggling in some respects, because I want a physical relationship with someone, but I have this problem of like pulling somebody. And then it's like, I don't know if I'm scared of the intimacy or what, but there's something there for sure. And it makes it really challenging, because it's like, I want to have sex, but I got to get married, but I'm avoidant. And it's like, so what would you say? Like, what's the biggest thing that a person can do? Actually was one of the questions from a listener. She said, how do you break the cycle of being avoidant yourself? It's a great question.
Again, I think it just goes back. I don't think there's one little thing to do. I think it is the first step is this awareness that you're having. So you're already covering half the battle, and you're trying something different. Okay. I think that if you, Rob, and listeners, if you're experiencing this, if you take your time and really allow yourself to fall in love with that person prior to sleeping with them, just really getting to know them for all the right reasons, and realizing that this could really be that person, and just having that self-awareness to walk through that fear, and maybe getting some support to walk you through to the other side, can get you there. But you have to know in advance that there's something in your psyche that's going to push you away at some moment, and to not retreat in that moment, but to sit with it and reflect and become curious.
I think I need to be your guinea pig in developing the woman funnel.
That sounds amazing. But if you Google the woman funnel, we can't name it that.
Oh, there's already a woman funnel?
It's very funny. It's like something you urinate in.
Oh God. All right. Well, never mind that. The female funnel.
We can come up with something good. You said something interesting though. I just wanted to go back to before we were getting into like, what exactly can we do to shift our attachment style. And by the way, I will say I was definitely anxious attachment, and I have moved, but like, I can't even say I was a securely attached person when I was married. But what really helped me so much, Rob, was like Josh's consistent love, just so much consistent love. Like, I used to wake up when I was newly married, I would wake up and have a dream that he was gone, and I would look over and he would like still be there. And I would have these dreams a lot. Okay. But now things are just different. I know, like, if I was ever back out there, for example, I just like have such a different viewpoint on love, so much more like abundance, and clarity, and just like certainty in my lovability, way more than like before I was married. So I'm sharing this because you don't have to be perfect to find your love. You know, you don't have to be perfectly like healed to find your love.
Good. Yeah, that's great.
The main thing is creating conscious choices right now. Like, you can come right out of an abusive relationship into a healthy relationship, but you have to have clarity on what that healthy relationship looks like, or you won't be able to maintain it. You won't know, you know, coming from an abusive relationship, you can't see what's right from wrong. So you have to really find a way to demonstrate that vision of healthy love. Okay. That's where a coach can come in to really support you on creating that and maintaining and knowing that right from wrong.
Love it. This is my last question. The one or more than one? Is there many people in the world that you know you could settle down and be happy with, or is there one?
1,000%. There's many different bees to many different flowers. If not, how would our species, you know, be able to get to where it is, where we're overpopulated? So soulmates, soul ties, and all of these things, they're really, you know, there's a lot of things that the human species gravitates to in order to make sense of our little lives. One of them is this thing of soulmates. Yes, you can find great loves, things that feel like great loves, things that feel like we're put together energetically by something, and possibly you were, right? Maybe there are like previous lives and you come together. Okay. It's just that the thing is, I've had so many broken hearts, Rob, enough to know that there's always another chance at love. And you can truly, the more you put yourself out there, the more you will find this to be true, that you'll have so many more connections than you thought you could make.
Good stuff. So, all right, let's tell everyone where they can find. Well, first off, you said you had a gift.
I do have a gift.
Yeah,
so
talk about
if
that.
you're even feeling curious about how the Manfunnel could support you in finding your one this year, I would love to talk to you and offer you a free man plan with me. Okay. So this will be with me personally. I will support you and learn about your process, and we will uncover things that you could do better to meet your person this year. And then if you're interested, I can also share with you how I could support you deeper. So that's your free man plan call.
Nice. And we'll just put the link to that in the notes. Okay, good. And then where can people find you online and on social media, buy your books, all that?
Sure. Well, my book is coming out, The Manfunnel, but you can find out all of that at the Manfunnel Instagram. So, and then there you can there's a link to all my other kind of offerings and whatever free gifts I'm offering at the time. So you can check that out, but I don't offer a free man plan call on there. So you're going to have to get that through Rob.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on, and definitely, again, remind you, just keep your eyes out for those Christian hotties to send my way.
Totally. I'm already on it, Rob. I got you.
All right. I appreciate it. Well, thanks, Megan.
Thanks so much for having me.
Great getting to know you. All right.